Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the Secretary call the roll, please?
Okay. Chair Machin.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez. Here. Commissioner Quill. Commissioner Wolbert. Here. Okay. Commissioners Liang and Ebley are excused. Commissioner Durr is absent. We have quorum.
Thank you. Consent items are considered routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or member of the public. Does the staff have any updates to the consent calendar?
Yes, we do, Chair. There are two items on the consent calendar. The first item is adoption of the minutes of the March 13, 2018 Planning Commission meeting, and staff recommends approval of the minutes. The second item, there's actually three items on consent. The second item is an extension of time. It's a one-year time extension request for tentative tract map 17170, which is a 16-acre parcel located at the northeast corner of Foothill Boulevard and Macy Street. The project is to subdivide the 16-acre site into 30 parcels for the construction of 27 single-family homes. Staff is recommending extension of time for 1 year for the tract map. And the third item is a continuance, and that is conditional use permit 17-28, and that's a request for type 21 at a existing market located at 2715 West Foothill. That item, staff is recommending the public hearing be continued for 1 month to the May 8th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on the consent calendar? Members of the public shall have a reasonable amount of time not to exceed 3 minutes to provide evidence and testimony. If not, may I entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as stated.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. The Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and also fill out a request to speak form. The forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak into the microphone. Say and spell your name and give your address for the taped record. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the municipal code are final action unless an appeal is filed and fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. The Community Development Director or other appropriate city staff member shall have a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 15 minutes, to report on the item. The applicant or appellant shall have a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 15 minutes, to provide evidence and testimony. Members of the public shall have a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 3 minutes, to provide evidence and testimony. The applicant or appellant shall have a reasonable amount of time not to exceed 5 minutes to provide rebuttal evidence and testimony. That brings us to item number 4, appeal number 17-02. A request to appeal the Community Development Department's revocation of zoning verification review 15-067 based on the determination that a prohibited use was occurring within an approved convenience store. Item number 4, staff report, please.
Item number 4 is stated as appeal number 17-02. Hold on just a moment. There we go. On May 13 of 2015, a zoning verification review was issued for a location at 1152 and 1156 North East Street for the continuation of an existing convenience store known as East Street Market. In October of 2017, that location, along with several others, I think there was a list of about 9 to 12 other properties that had been identified as partaking in some illicit activities by the police department. They went out on October 5th and swept these businesses that had previously been identified, and then sent a report back to planning, and code enforcement also went out at the time and gave several code violations for the different properties. On October 9th, zoning verification was revoked. And just to give a little bit of detail about what the zoning verification is, it's a requirement in order to obtain a business license or business registration division. Just needs to get approval from the planning division stating that the use is appropriate for the zone. And so in typical cases like this, a zoning verification is issued, and once we got the report from PD, we understood that the activities that the zoning verification was issued for were not the activities that were actually taking place, or at least not the only activities that were taking place. So this location is just a bit south of Baseline on Northeast Street. Again, it's East Street Market. It's located in the Commercial General CG1 zone. So typically, a convenience store would be permitted at that location. Sorry. As-
Chantal, I
yeah.
would recommend that you stop the
Okay.
presentation
Sure.
until you have a quorum.
Until we have quorum. Okay.
If you don't mind, Chair. And just for the taped record, Commissioner Amelia Lopez has temporarily left the dais.
Okay. 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 Sure. Okay. Right, okay. Commission adopt Resolution 2018-023, adopting the categorical exemption and upholding the Community Development Department's revocation of zoning verification review 15-0678 based on the findings of fact. I can answer any questions that you have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Since the same applicant will be for the next following items, would we be able to group them together and get the staff report for all three now and make a motion on all of them and just get it done in one block? Would that be allowable? Or would we need to make a motion to do that, or?
I think that it probably produces a cleaner record to have 3 hearings, but as the appellant's not here, I think we can probably expedite this a little bit, Chair. I did have a question for the Deputy City Attorney who's assigned to staff and staff. You guys do have attachments to the backup here. Attachment B, aerial map, C, location zoning map, D, which is a notice of violation on the property, E, which is a police report from looks like Officer Luna from the Vice Unit. Includes the notice of intent to destroy illegal gambling devices as well. There's a letter dated October 9th by Chantal Power to Jihad Saker regarding the revocation of the zoning review. There's a copy of the zoning review for East Street Market at 1156 North East Street. There's the application for appeal that was filed by Attorney Ethan Robinson on behalf of the appellant Jihad Saker. Would you like to just move all those into evidence for the board?
That would be the request to the commission. If we can, it appears, and Chantal, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the exhibits in each of the 3 items are the same except for references to the address in the zoning verification review. So in the interest of, as Commissioner Jones stated, in the interest of consolidating these items and expediting the process, the request would be to enter each of the exhibits and each of these matters into evidence for the commission's consideration.
Yes, the exhibits are the same. The only information that's any different are the locations, the zoning of the locations. But for the most part, all of the attachments are the same for each.
So Chair, if it is the pleasure of the Planning Commission, you could open the public hearings on 5 and 6 in addition to 4, which you've already opened. You could receive all of that backup, which I've gone through the type of document for each one. It's for each property. Apparently they all have the same documents. You could receive them into evidence, and you guys can make one motion on all 3 if it's your pleasure. Like I said, the appellant is not here, so it does not appear that you are going to be receiving any contrary evidence. They're the ones who made the appeal.
Sounds good to me. Does anyone have any objection to it?
One question for Chantal. Was notice sent to the appellant and the appellant's attorney that the hearing was going to be today?
Yes.
Have you spoken with the appellant or the appellant's attorney about today's hearing?
I spoke to the appellant attorney's secretary.
And you informed them of today's hearing
Yes.
and the date and time?
Yes.
Okay.
And the location.
Then I think it'd be entirely proper for the board if you wanted to take a motion on all 3.
Sounds good to me.
Sorry. The recommendation would be to adopt resolutions number 2018-023, 024, and 025, adopting the categorical exemption, which is the same for all 3, and upholding the community development's revocation of all 3 zoning verifications.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-023, resolution 2018 excuse me, And I would like to make a motion approving that resolution and also adopting Resolution 2018-024 and 2018-025, upholding the community development's revocation of zoning review.
I second.
Is there any discussion?
And Chair, after discussion, while we don't have the appellant, we do appear to have a couple members of the public. I would also recommend inviting them for their 3 minutes if anyone wishes to speak,
Before we vote on the motion,
before you vote on the motion.
is there anyone who would like to speak on this item?
Also, but before we vote, the applicant did spend a little over almost $2,300 for each item to be placed on this appeal process moving forward. Can we in good faith at least try to make one last attempt to contact them, or should we just move forward with the vote? I mean, I personally think that it's pretty cut and dry. I looked at the application he submitted for an appeal, where he basically was saying that the allegations were untrue. That was the only sentence for his ground substantiating why he felt this appeal was warranted. But after looking at the police reviews and seeing the additional information in the newspaper and the evidence that was attached, I think that there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that explicitly states that the allegations that are being brought forth by the city are in fact true, and those activities appear that they may have been going on. So, but that's the only question I have before moving forward with the vote. I don't know how the commission would feel about that moving forward, if that would be appropriate, considering the circumstances, but that's just one concern I had. All right, I'd like to make a motion approving resolution number 2018-023, resolution number 2018-024, and resolution number 2018-025, adopting the statutory exemption and upholding the community development's revocation of the zoning verification review.
Should I second again?
Yes.
I second again.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. And that completes the agenda. That brings us down to public comments, items not on the agenda. Would anyone like to speak? Planning Commission reports and announcements.
I have an announcement. On April 28th, 2018, we have the Community Block Party, which is going to be taking place at Highland Pacific Elementary on 3340 Pacific Street. The event will be on Saturday, April 28th. Also, we have the Black Grads 8th Annual Inland Empire High School Graduation Recognition Ceremony, which will take place on March 6th at 3 p.m. at the Cal State University, 5500 University Parkway. Once again, that's the Black Grad 8th Annual Inland Empire Graduate Recognition Ceremony, which is going to be on May 6th at 3 p.m. I encourage the community members and all staff to please attend if you have time. And lastly, we have the 5th Annual Dr. King Celebration, which is going to be taking place on April 21st, on a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2. It's going to be at the Martin Luther King Junior Middle School at 1250 Medical Center Drive, right in the 6th Ward. Once again, that's April 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 on Saturday. And those are all the announcements I have for today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Yes.
On April 21st, over at Lyda Creek Park, we are doing a kickoff media event with the city and West Coast Arborists for the planting of trees throughout the city. The city did receive a grant of 245 trees and collaborated with the neighborhood associations to obtain watering agreements from residents, which we obtained 100 signed agreements, and we're also able to advocate for 62 trees to be planted along Moose Kubiabi and Mountain View, where the drought had killed trees, and remove them and so forth. Of course, this project is to beautify, to improve the quality of life, because we know trees are the things of beauty and so forth, and to also improve the environment. So on April 21st, they're going to have a major kickoff and launching. They're going to do some demonstration planting at Lido Creek Park. And then on that day, which coincides with Arbor Day, the city crews and hundreds of volunteers are going to fan out to the residential area to plant trees. This year we had 7 neighborhood associations that participated, so we're very pleased. And now we're gearing up for our next projects, which is to work with the city as part of the citywide streetlight assessment project. We're going to be signing up neighborhood associations that are also going to fan out into their communities to report faulty lighting and so forth. You know, these are very doable projects. We're always complaining about getting this fixed and that fixed. Well, we are rolling up our sleeves and trying to help.
Very good. Any further comments? Anything else? If not, I'll call for the director's report.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. You may have noticed on the dais when you arrived this evening there were 2 resolutions. These were resolutions that the Mayor and City Council recently adopted. The first resolution establishes protocols and rules for quasi-judicial hearings. And just for the public's benefit, if not anybody else's, when the Planning Commission is hearing testimony as they did this evening, the Planning Commission is mostly operating in a quasi-judicial capacity where you're applying the facts to a particular case to render a decision. The City Council has established some rules and procedures for all commissions that act in that capacity. So I wanted to make sure that the commissioners had that. And that's why the agenda looks a little bit differently. You will notice it, and the chair read kind of the rules so that everybody is clear at the outset of the meeting how the meetings are to be conducted. The second resolution that was adopted by the mayor and the council established reasonable regulations for comments on public comments and testimony. And this is all in the, with the goal, I should say, the City Council has had a couple of strategic planning sessions over the last 10 to 12 months, and they are trying to set clearer standards for how the public should conduct themselves at public meetings, and conversely, how the staff and commissioners and council members themselves should conduct themselves. You'll notice that there are code of conduct rules that have been posted in the chambers, and this is trying to make the meetings much more efficient, allow everybody an opportunity to be heard, and to have the business of the city done in a much more professional manner. So I just wanted to make sure that the commissioners had those 2 resolutions, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
One thing that I noticed, Mark, and it may not be anything that we can do anything about, sometimes speakers really, they swear in to present evidence, and then when they speak, there is no evidence. Is there any means of educating the public by what do we mean by evidence spoken to the issue? Because sometimes it comes down to, I just don't want it in my backyard. But there is no real evidence that it's going to disrupt something or interfere or is against. And I'm not so sure if sometimes the people who come to the podium are fully informed as what we need to know as evidence. Sometimes they mention things like here in the Planning Commission, then for me it opens the door to ask more questions.
Sure.
But I'm looking for evidence, you know, that will help us in the decision making.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think many commissions deal with that in many different cities. It may just be that the chair could say, you know, are there facts that support that? But opinions also count. You're right, evidence, saying that there's an adverse effect for XYZ reasons is a more compelling argument than saying, I don't like Oliver's red tie and therefore you should deny it. Sorry, Oliver. But opinions also count. I think that's something that when the public hearing is closed and the commission is debating, that's something that the commissioners can determine whether or not the fact that I don't like red is material or not for a reason to deny a project.
I can understand that would be for us to determine and
Right.
to sift through, but I think sometimes, especially for me as a commissioner, and if residents show up, I really want to know what the concerns are,
Right.
If there's something that I need to know if I'm going to vote on somebody's issue, what they really mean or so forth, but okay.
Right. Yeah, and again, it may just be the chair saying, are there facts that support that? It may just be a simple comment like that. And then as you sometimes do, Commissioner Lopez, as other commissioners, you'll ask follow-on questions, which is certainly something the commission is able to do. But I think this is a good first step to say that, it is 3 minutes. People don't get to cycle through 4, 5, 6 times. This is not a public debate. And I think sometimes, not just this commission, but other commissions get into kind of a debate format, and that's not really what this is. It allows the public to make their case, hopefully based upon facts, if not just based upon opinion, and then the commission can weigh that. I don't know if that helps answer your question, Commissioner.
Yes, it does.
I do want to ask a question about the 3-minute rule. I assume the red light will go on there, and what happens if they don't stop speaking?
As the chair, I don't know if you've seen the mayor do this. There are gentle reminders that as chair, and then at some point you can actually request that they stop speaking. That is the prerogative. The rules are meant to apply to 3 minutes. And my observation in the 4 years that I've been here and the 30 years that I've been doing this across multiple cities, I would say 95% of the people are very good at adhering to the 3 minutes. It's really the rare exception that somebody says, no, I've got the podium and I'm going to go on. And in your role as chair, you are the essential enforcer of those rules.
Can you turn the speaker off, or the speaker off or the mic off at 3 minutes?
I'll let Stephen maybe weigh in on some of this.
No, I think that, that's a good question. And, the council has dealt with individuals who fail to yield the podium. Under the current municipal code sections, failing to yield the podium after the presiding officer has instructed you that your time has expired actually is a disruption of a public meeting and constitutes an infraction or a misdemeanor under the municipal code. I don't think we're ever going to get that far, but I think that it would be perfectly acceptable for the chair. My recommendation is, like Mark said, the mayor generally will say, your time has expired, can you please wrap up your comments? And sometimes they'll say, I have 2 more sentences. Will the mayor please allow me to finish? Usually he'll allow that. I think there's, a little bit of reasonability that goes into this. Yes, your staff does have the ability to shut off people's microphones. You want to show us? So I'm talking right now. I've gone past my... So that ability does exist, and I think that's certainly a non-confrontational way, to tell them your time has expired. You need to step away from the podium.
What about the gavel?
That is one of the mayor's other tools that he wields to great effect. The gavel he uses to begin the meetings. He does not tend to use it to stop somebody who's starting to go over. It's mostly to get people's attention at the start. If that's certainly another way of bringing order to a meeting. if that's the way you want to proceed. I mean, generally, it's going to be the style of the chair, and like Mark said, it's incumbent upon the chair to use that soft power to de-escalate the situation. I think that most people, when they're confronted by the chair telling them your time's expired, you need to stop now, most people will stop. I think it is extremely rare that someone will continue. And if that's the case, the chair can declare the person out of order, demand they step down. If that doesn't work, I have a handy script for the chair to read before we call the security officer in. So.
Thank you.
Understood. Is there anything else from the director?
No, Chair, that concludes my report.
I will call for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. The motion carries.